Welcome to Overdrive AF, the official podcast of Overdrive Fitness. My name is Teddy Gurzon, and I'm joined by Gina Marie Gurzon.
What's up?
All right, here we are, coming right back at you with episode 179. Last week we spoke about wearable tech, and today we want to talk more about mobility and flexibility for injury prevention, right? So just diving right into the topic for today. Mobility and flexibility, they're key components of injury prevention, and they help maintain the proper range of motion in joints and muscles, right? They promote balance and they improve overall movement patterns. So today what we're going to talk about are how mobility and flexibility play a role in preventing injury.
All right, so when we talk about mobility refers to the ability of a joint to move actively through its full range of motion. And how mobility affects and prevents injury. The first thing we want to talk about is improved range of motion. So when a joint can move freely and efficiently, it reduces the risk of compensation. So these compensatory movements, which can often lead to injuries. Great mobility does provide better movement mechanics. It allows for proper body alignment during physical activity, and that prevents that overloading of the muscle and the joint. Because again, everything works together and in unison with each other. Good mobility reduces muscle stiffness. Mobility exercises will help prevent muscle stiffness, and that can increase the risk of strains and tears. And we always talk about, even in our classes too with our members and our athletes, that tight muscle causes injury. We want to be able to prevent that. Good mobility provides joint stability. We need mobility and stability. All right, so from top to bottom, head to heel, we want to have both of those, mobility and stability. So proper mobility ensures that the muscles around the joint can stabilize it, reducing the risk of those joint-related injuries.
All right, and then flexibility. What that is, it's the ability to stretch or lengthen through the range of motion. All right, so the benefits of injury prevention, just keep short, right? Balance muscle tension, reduce muscle tightness, increase blood flow, and enhance posture, right? So as far as balanced muscle tension, flexibility helps maintain balanced tension in muscles, preventing imbalances that could lead to injuries, right? As far as reduced muscle tightness, tight muscles are more prone to strains and pulls, which we kind of just went over, right? But especially during dynamic activities or sudden movements. So for you athletes out there that are super tight, or even your washed up athletes that are super tight trying to play in these adult leagues, that's referring to when you just pop that hamstring real fast, or anything else in your body, right? That never used to do that when you were younger, at least. As far as increased blood flow, stretching, so flexibility improves blood flow to the muscles, reducing soreness and promoting recovery. So it just helps you move everything within the body better, right? And then it also enhanced posture, right? So flexibility in key muscles such as the hip flexors and hamstrings, which we talk about a lot in class with our members, whether it be in class or one-on-one, right? Which we throw into everyone's workouts for adults and athletes, right? So, flexibility in key muscles contribute to better posture. It also reduces the stress on the back and other areas prone to injury, right? So, obviously back and hip issues are, those are the most common ones that you'll see everybody have, right? So why don't we go over some recommended exercises? What would you recommend for mobility and even flexibility?
So these are a lot of things that we normally would do, in class as part of our warm-up, kind of pre-primer, lubricating the joint, getting everything kind of loose in a sense, more dynamic. So something to help mobilize the hip, or we would do like seated internal rotations, 90-90 hip openers, standing hip circles, or hip cars, controlled articulations. For the upper body, so we, more of, again, a shoulder car or controlled articulation, full range of motion through the shoulders, opening up the fingertips, expanding the hands because everything is connected. Any type of an ankle mobility drill. So again, full range of motion through the joint. Even light pogos, things like that. Lateral bounds. Your cat-cow stretches, which is something for more spinal range of motion. So from, again, head to tail. These are more mobility, so you're noticing that these exercises are more active range of motion. So we're actively moving through the movement specifically. When we talk about flexibility, they're more static in a sense, where we're kind of holding these poses. So your hamstring stretches, where maybe we could be seated and bowing forward, breathing into it, holding for a certain amount of time, standing up and bowing forward, breathing into it. Your quadriceps are the front of your leg, so either standing, assisted holding onto something, grabbing the laces, pulling the heel to the hip, again breathing through that for a certain amount of time. Maybe a doorway stretch, so we're stepping through the doorway, one hand, one forearm on each side of the doorway, and stepping forward. Your hip flexors, we can talk about maybe a half kneeling position, kind of rocking through that range of motion and squeezing the glute, holding for that period of time. We can make it dynamic or more specific to that space, so holding in that position. There's so many exercises that we could name, but we could put the stretches on there if you want to. But
what I could even do is actually in the show notes, I can create like a playlist of different exercises that we recommend, like our top 4 for each. That would be a good one. Just give everyone an idea of what we'd like to do over here at Overdrive, right?
It's even something nice like creating like a flexibility, mobility, like a 5-minute morning routine or evening routine before you go to bed. Some of our members do that, similar to what we provide in class or during our training sessions, is, even just putting together a 5-minute mobility and flexibility routine, say first thing in the morning, to get the blood flowing, to kind of, shake off that stiffness that you might be feeling maybe once you kind of get up out of bed, or before you go to bed. Sometimes it's just a nice nighttime routine where blood is flowing, you feel nice and relaxed, you're breathing through these stretches, breathing through the mobility drills. And again, they don't have to be explosive and reactive, to get the blood flowing so that you can, get your heart rate up. You can also do these exercises more slow and controlled, and slow your breath and slow your heart rate down so that you can prepare for a relaxing night of sleep, hopefully. So I think we can do with it, what we need to do with it for that purpose.
Yes. I mean, again, mobility and flexibility, they're both super important, right? And these are 2 things that, like I said plenty of times, I like to talk about them in the initial consultations with new members, right? Especially onboardings. So whenever people ask, what can I expect in a workout at Overdrive? Well, obviously, we're always telling everyone our goal is to build muscle and burn fat, right? And in doing so, knowing that having a lot of muscle allows you to burn more fat, burn more calories throughout the day, we're always trying to help everybody build muscle, obviously burn fat, through strength training, right? But at the same time, utilizing a lot of mobility and flexibility through the workouts, right? The reason being, we don't want to get so jacked and just packed on so much muscle that we can't wipe our ass, right? So we need to be functioning adults.
And you want to be able to move the weight through a full range of motion. That's healthy movement. So you see, like we would see this back in the day, where guys and girls too would be going through range of motion. So it could be a barbell squat, it could be a bench press, it could be a bent over row, but they're half repping things. Now, is that half rep because they're tight? Is it a half rep or limited range of motion because they're in pain? Is it a limited range of motion because it's ego, or a little bit of all three of those things? So all three of those things, I mean, at some point, injury. So at some point, there could be some sort of issue. It's better to incorporate this mobility and flexibility so that you can move freely through the full range of motion and feel strong. And that's where mobility always lends itself really well to strength.
And
right?
If you want to live a long, happy, healthy life, you need to be both mobile and flexible, right? It helps to be strong. That's what we're always chasing, right? We always want to be strong. Because let's face it, doesn't matter how old you are. At some point in life, you are going to experience pain, right? More so when you're older. However, you have a choice. Do you want to be in pain while being weak or while being strong, right? So it's a lot easier to deal with pain when you're strong. And then couple that with mobility and flexibility, it's just a lot easier to get around and do a lot of things, right? However, going back to the ego thing, right? You see a lot of old school people do it. They do a lot of half reps, right? And at the end of the day, you gotta think about what's your ultimate goal, right? If it's hypertrophy or like bodybuilding in a sense, right? There really is no excuse to chase full range of motion, right? Because the numbers you're throwing on the bar, it's not going to really matter if you're only doing half reps, right? Because then you're only training yourself for that short range of motion. You're leaving a lot in the tank, or on the table, I should say, that you're not utilizing. And you always see those people that always do half reps, they always get hurt, right? Now, I don't know why I got hurt. Well, it's maybe because you were trying to do 100 pounds more than you really should have, right? Then, is with mobility and flexibility, if your goal is strength, right, as far as a sport, specifically powerlifting, right, then there really is there also is no excuse for shortened range of motion, because that bench press isn't going to count in competition if it's a half rep. That squat definitely won't count, and then you're just not even going to be able to get to the deadlift because you fucked yourself on the first two, right? So at the end of the day, full range of motion is really something that everyone should be chasing, and there should be no excuse for it. If you suck at it, that's one thing, but if you refuse to comply because you have 1,000 excuses, like, oh, I can't squat all the way down, right? And then we ask them, so you can't even squat the parallel? No, it hurts. Okay. Do you have a normal sized toilet that you take a shit on every day? Because that's you squatting the parallel, unless of course you are like 4'6", right?
Right. I mean, or you sit down at the dinner table, or you sit in your car. You get up out of your car, you sit into your car. There's got to be some, and with that, there's going to be the people who have no problem doing those things, and then people who actually have to grab onto the steering wheel or grab onto the car door and kind of guide themselves in, because they can't. Either one, they can't get in and they can't get out without help.
Another example, if you can lay on your back and hug your knees to your chest, you can fucking squat ass to grass. Right? So maybe standing up, going through that same exact motion could be an arduous task, but your hips are telling you otherwise. Like, you pass the test. You have hip flexion. You can squat. Right? It's more so that from what we've seen, it's just a refusal to fucking lighten the load and do it properly.
Right.
Just people accepting the thousands of excuses that they give themselves as to why they can't do something. It's obviously frustrating.
Yeah,
especially for me.
Even look at, if you want to say powerlifters, but even look at, say, professional ballet dancers or something. And I'm not even talking about the women. What about the men? those men not only have to be flexible and mobile, but they have to be strong as hell. They have to be able to jump 20 feet in the air. They have to be able to hold their partner above their head, throw their partner in the air, catch their partner. So you have to be all three of those things. You have to be able to move freely without pain. You have to be able to explode and land. You have to be able to hold not only your own body weight, but your partner's body weight, and stay as stable as possible. So it's really all three of those things.
Yes. Oh, and let's bring up another example, right? So even though we do want to see great stability, especially a lot of mobility and flexibility, we don't want people to chase those things while experiencing pain, or just passing the eye test. Oh, I have great mobility and flexibility, but then we find out they're actually hypermobile, right? They have lax joints, right? We see it a lot in gymnasts,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
They look on the surface flexible. They can put themselves in crazy positions, but then some of them do have tight hamstrings, right? So like their joints move well, but their muscles are tight. A lot of them, even though they are great at their sport, they are technically weak, which is why they keep getting hurt, right? So it's you need to find the right balance of flexibility, mobility, and strength, right? You can't just be great at one or two of those and suck at the third. So it's because some of that can be misguiding, and the reason why I brought that up is because there's a lot of bullshit out there in social media, and people like to take things to the extreme. So specifically what I'm getting at is like knees over toes, right? So like people will just chase, knees over toes, and then I can dunk a basketball. It's like, well, yes and no. Like if you fucking suck at strength and power, then you can kiss that goodbye, right? So
And I think when we really push one side of things, the other two tend to fall short. So you have to balance everything out, right?
Absolutely.
You have to give energy to all of the items in the cart. It's kind of the same as, when you say, okay, well, I want to run the next marathon. That's, I don't know, the New York City Marathon. Okay, so you have to expect to be able to give a certain amount of time, which takes up the majority of your time for that marathon. So you have to build your endurance. So there's other things that are going to fall short. We can't, be a great marathoner and also be an amazing power lifter. It's just something. There's ways to train both of those things, but we can't expect to be amazing at all of those things at once. We can get better, but something falls short, always falls short, and you have to choose.
Yeah.
So it's better to work on all of those things to make them better as a whole.
And concentrate on it for the long run. Right? These things aren't just going to improve and be optimal overnight.
And that's why, right, the sign of longevity is muscle quality. And by becoming more mobile and flexible, so working on that mobility and flexibility allows for the quality of the muscle tissue to be enhanced, right? And muscles, joints, tendons, ligaments, everything works together to allow for all to work better as a whole. And again, if you can move better, if you're stronger overall in general, if you have that fluidity, is the muscle quality is most definitely a solid sign of longevity. That's what they're looking for.
Awesome. I think that was a great episode. Two simple things that we apply to every workout that they pay huge dividends in the end for everybody.
And we include that in every workout here. There's always mobility and flexibility drills, right?
And some workouts are even all that.
Yeah.
But we sneak it in. People think it's just a conditioning workout. But because so many people don't move well, it winds up being a conditioning workout going through these movements.
Get your heart rate up too. You can make it that way. You can create it to be that way. It's not sneaky. It's for everyone's benefit,
Yeah.
I would say.
So maybe it's sneaky in the sense that I won't post the workout until late. So, they walk in surprised. Anything else to add?
No, that's it.
All right, so that's our episode on flexibility and mobility for injury prevention. We appreciate you guys tuning in. We'll catch you guys next week on another episode of Overdrive AF. Until then, we are out. Peace.
Bye.